In general, prepositions are very difficult to predict and translate because, in general, they are arbitrary and therefore it makes it very difficult. In fact, sometimes where in English we use a preposition, in other languages, such as Spanish, no preposition is used, and vice versa. Sometimes in other languages where prepositions are required, in English there is no such preposition or preposition use. For example, in English we would say something like John married Betty, but in Spanish you would need a preposition and you would have something like John se casó con Betty. And so in Spanish, you need, after the verb casar, you need the preposition con. But in English, we don't have any preposition there. And for example, in English, we say, for example, John dreams about his girlfriend. We get dream about. But in Spanish, you get John sueña con su novia. In Spanish, you dream with, not dream about. So prepositions are somewhat difficult to master because they are often very arbitrary and unpredictable, and often you cannot do literal translations from one language to the other of prepositions. And there is even sometimes disagreement among speakers of English what preposition to use. But there are some instances where the preposition that we select in English is more predictable, more stable. And that's what I want to address in this presentation with the use of in, on, and at for indicating location and time. These prepositions in, on, and at can be used for other things. These are not the only uses. But when they're used to indicate location or position and time, they're more predictable. I say more predictable because even here there is some variation. The three prepositions in and on and at, when indicating location, position, or place, are rather stable and predictable. The preposition in is used when we are referring to continents. So in North America, in Europe, in Asia, when referring to islands, in Vieques, in the Bahamas, with the names of countries, in Mexico, Venezuela, in states or in countries that have provinces or other kinds of major divisions, we would use in Ohio. With the names of cities or towns, we would use in Miami, in New York, and with areas in towns. For example, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, there's a part of the town that is called Coupé. So that part of the town we would say in Coupé. In New York City, you get things like in Chinatown, in Little Italy, in the Bronx. So cities, towns, and parts of towns. On is used when we are referring to streets, avenues, roads, etc. In English, we have many different words that we use to indicate these public thoroughfares. Sometimes we have the word street or avenue or road, but we have several others that are sometimes used. Um, then we have the convergence of two streets. In those cases, one possible way to refer to this would be on the corner. Now, when we say on the corner, we usually mention the two streets that intersect there. So, for example, on the corner of Candara Avenue and Barbosa Avenue. Now, we use on as to indicate locations primarily of buildings and places, but not with the specific address of the building. So if you were to identify the exact location with a building number, then we would not say on. Now, I must clarify, when you say on Francisco Sain Street, for example, you are saying that it is actually to the side of the street. If you are referring to where the cars pass, then you would say in the street. In the street, that means where the cars are. So if you're locating a building, you don't want to say it's in the street unless there's been some disaster. um, Buildings, houses, whatever, are on the street. On meaning to the sides, not where the cars pass there. In the street would give a very different idea. It would give the idea that that is where the cars go. This is especially important to note for Spanish speakers, since both in and on in Spanish are translated by the same word, en. But in English, on the street and in the street have very different ideas, so it's important to use on when, again, referring to buildings, houses, etc. At is used with the specific address, specific location of houses or buildings. And usually when we do that, we give the building number or the house number. So at 500 First Avenue. Now, sometimes certain buildings have names and it's well known. And so in those cases, we may not use the building number, but we might just say at with the name of the building. So at the Tapia Theater, at the Convention Center, at the Metropolitan Campus. All of these, we're assuming that the person knows these buildings and can identify their location by hearing the name. We also use at with certain events and certain locations, and this is somewhat confusing because it is a little less predictable. So if a person is attending a concert, we could say that my friend is at a concert, or at a movie, or at a dance. There we're referring to some kind of event or activity. We also use at, we tend to use at with words like church, school, and work. So we tend to say at church, at school, at work. It is possible to say in church, in school, but the tendency is to say at unless you want to emphasize that the person is physically inside the building there. So with words like church and school, there is some variation between using at and using in. With work, we tend always to use at. I would say in general, Americans don't say in work. So in, on, and at with location, position are pretty predictable and regular, but they do have some variations and a few inconsistencies. When referring to time, in and on and at have a rather regular distribution. In is used with months, so October, in November. Years, in 1995, in 2009. With combinations of month and year, in October 1995. When referring to decades, in the 1990s. When referring to centuries, in the 20th century. Seasons of the year, in the spring, in the fall, in the winter. And with certain parts of the day, we say in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. We do not say in night. That seems rather inconsistent, but in fact, that's the way it is. Inconsistent, but that is the use. On is used with specific days. So on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. And sometimes we refer to part of the day, so we would still say on Monday morning. Um, we can identify a specific day by indicating the month and the number of the day. So, for example, on June 23rd, that's a specific day. We can be more specific by indicating the name of the day, the month, and the number. On Monday, June 23rd. Again, because it's referring to a specific day, on. You may even include the year. So, on Monday, June 23rd, 1998. Again, we use on because it's still referring to a specific day. Now, some days have special names. Thanksgiving. So we would say on Thanksgiving. You might say on Thanksgiving Day or just on Thanksgiving. On Christmas, on Christmas Day. On my birthday. So when we refer to a specific day, we use on to indicate that. At is used with the hour. At 9 o'clock, at 7:30, and you might indicate 7:30 a.m. or p.m. At noon, which is a specific time, that's 12 p.m. At midnight, 12 a.m. And then this inconsistency, we also use at with night. We say at night. The other parts of the day we say in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, but with the word night we say at night. So as you can see, the distribution of in and on and at is uh, rather predictable, and so learning to use these is a little less difficult than learning some of the other prepositions. Again, I emphasize that in and on and at are used for things other than just indicating time and location.